Chris Spiker here.
I'm Mary Goldstein. We are here with our second guest, Matt Ware from Antelope Ambulance.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You bet. We love Antelope Ambulance.
Yeah, we like being around. Obviously, we're 20 years in now, and Doug and Andy have done a great job putting Antelope together and maintaining it, and through thick and thin, they've stuck it out. So they're doing well. They're doing very well, and ultimately, we love being the heartbeat of the Antelope Valley and continuing to serve the community that most of us live in around here.
That's right. When you mentioned Doug and Andy, it's like these guys have been doing this so long. It's so easy, but it's not. It takes a passion.
It does. And the ambulance industry now is even harder because of reimbursements and issues that we deal with, obviously, in California. So they know the business really well, and Doug's done a great job maintaining and knowing what it takes to keep the business running, and Andy does really well with keeping the ambulances running and knowing what's needed on that aspect too. So they both complement each other when it comes down to running a successful business.
And you guys, guys and gals, are first responders.
Yeah, in a sense we are. We do a lot of backup for AMR, running with the fire department here in LA County, and we also do a lot of backup for Kern County at Edwards Air Force Base. So we do deal with quite a few of the emergencies. Maybe not as much as you would see with AMR, but we do have a lot of them.
Oh yeah, you're there.
Mm-hmm. We are. We've seen some things you want to forget, but unfortunately you can't.
Part of life.
It is part of life. It definitely, especially in this industry.
By accident or design.
Yes, it is. We're just glad to be there.
And that's something I wanted to, when I realized I had you on the show this week, horrible things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And how does your company, how does the community prepare for something that they thought would never happen?
I think a lot of it comes from the initial training that most of us get in school, either EMT or paramedic, preparing you for mass casualty incidents. We have a saying, it's not if, it's when. We know these things, unfortunately now with the way things are in the world, are going to happen. And with that initial training that they get in schools, but also once they come to their respective companies that they work for, we still do hands-on training there. We do annual training. We have worked closely with the fire department, the sheriff's department, AMR, to maintain those training, or that type of training, so that way everyone kind of knows their role. The biggest thing is just trying to stay one step ahead and know what you would be doing in that situation if it were to happen. I mean, realistically, we always say, you only revert back to your training when in those situations happen. So hopefully the training that we provide on a continuous basis all the way around first responders, in that moment you can effectively do what you can to help, especially like a situation that happened last night in Thousand Oaks. It's a senseless act that happened, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the families, the first responders, the sergeant that lost his life for Ventura County Sheriff's Department. We feel bad for all of them, and we pray for them, and we just got to be prepared as much as we can for situations like that.
Sometimes people think, oh, that happens somewhere else, or my family's okay, but it touches all of us.
It really does, because we've all been in an area like that, maybe not in a situation where a mass shooting happens, but we've been at a bar, we've been at a gathering with a lot of people, and you're close friends, their family, and to imagine losing a lot of them at the same time, thinking about the Route 91 shooting, I couldn't imagine being in that situation, and on the flip side, being a responder going into that, and just seeing the type of devastation that happens, it hurts, it tugs at your strings, that's for sure.
Wow, so you fall back on your training.
You have to, you have to, and hopefully that training that you have is solid enough to keep you moving forward, which I think in the most case most people are. I mean, if you look at those two situations where those first responders went in and they did their job, they knew what they were doing, they communicated very well, they talked amongst each other, and they dealt with those patients the best they could. It just shows how much training goes into being prepared for those type of situations. So the more we do, the better we are at it. And as time has gone, it's obviously helped us to get to a solid foundation of what training we need to have in those type of active shooter situations.
And I think that could be part of why I know in the city of Palmdale, they're really promoting the CERT program, getting people involved, just to have some training, some protocol in place, if that's the right word, so that when something happens.
Yeah, and it keeps everyone prepared. So the more people know the better off we're going to be. To recognize signs, to recognize areas that, just a simple phone call to 911 may tip someone off to say, hey, this is going on. And before anything like that can even happen, sheriff or whoever can come in and isolate the threat or take out the threat that might be posing at that time. So just the more understanding that people have and the more knowledge that they have will make everything, in a sense, easier to cope with. It doesn't make it better, but it makes it easier to kind of cope with knowing that, maybe we're one step ahead, if possible.
Wow. Yeah, sobering.
It really is. It's hard. You don't want to plan for it, but you do. And then when it happens, it wasn't in our backyard, but it's close. I have friends that are out there. We have employees that have friends that were there. And just to kind of hear their stories, it's hard. It's very sobering to hear. And, that could be anywhere, any of us at any time.
At any time, the most innocent of surroundings.
Yeah.
There would be things that would happen in maybe Paris. And so whenever I'm sitting somewhere just enjoying myself, having a cup of coffee or sitting down chatting,
right,
I think, wow.
Yep. Yeah, it
happens fast.
Happens there, it could happen here. You never know. And it's very quick. It's very, very quick. Yeah, I agree.
What are some of the things that Antelope Ambulance does?
We do a lot of transports interfacility that are called, so it's hospital to hospital. We're the main primary transport for Kaiser out here in the Antelope Valley. So we do a lot
That's a big client, right?
It is. It's great working with Kaiser. They have a great system, and so they've allowed us the opportunity to provide the transport, for them. And so it keeps us busy. We go from the urgent cares to the hospitals, hospital to hospital. Like I said, we do a lot of the backup 911 for AMR and Edwards Air Force Base. We work closely with High Desert Medical Group. We do a lot of transports for them, anywhere from paramedic, EMT, to even wheelchair gurney. We do a lot of special events. We cover the fair. We do all the medical for them.
Does anybody ever walk up to you at the fair and say, thank you for being here?
The staff at the fair does. I know that the manager, deputy manager, and they really appreciate us, and some other people that work there as well. But you don't. It's a thankless job in most cases, and that goes for any type of first responder.
Yeah.
You don't get a lot of thanks like you think you would, but we don't do it for the thanks. We do it for caring for those patients and the people that need emergency care at that moment.
Man, I think this is a good time to throw in a story. The guy's mountain biking up above the aqueduct, and he falls off his bike and injures himself. And he's out in he's pretty close to the road. He gets to the road, he gets to the hospital, and he has to wait 2 hours, and he's complaining, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, who was the guy on the bike?
Right.
And I guess you're just supposed to stage at the end of the road there and wait for people to fall off their bike so that you can give them a quick ride.
Yeah, it's one of those things where
some of this is our responsibility, right?
Right, it is.
Yeah.
It is, and I think that's just all part of the system of knowing and understanding, what goes on, especially in our area. We're such a heavy population of people with 2 hospitals.
Right.
So, and you're going to wait sometimes, and we try to get there and do as much as we can as quickly as can.
How many people visit an emergency room between the two?
Oh man,
It's got to be a few thousand in a day.
Oh, easy, yeah, easily. I would say so. And now, if you think about it, with the weather getting colder, the flu season kicking in, it spikes even more. And the people at the hospitals do a great job. Try to getting them in and out as quickly as they can, and assessing them for what type of treatment that they need. But sometimes, you get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It does get very overwhelming.
It's a popular place to live, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
The Antelope Valley,
It
LA
really,
County.
really is. Yeah, it's spiked quite a bit. Yeah.
How many ambulance companies in the high desert here? Seems like a bunch.
Mainly based out of the Antelope Valley, there's only 2, which would be Antelope Ambulance and AMR. There are a few other companies that kind of come in and come out, doing certain type of transports here and there. There used to be more, but now really there's only the main foundation that's here is 2, just the 2 ambulance companies.
Some might think it's a very profitable business, but I bet it's very expensive.
It's very expensive. I think the roughly approximating the going rate right now is about $1,200 for a basic ambulance transportation, and that's what the county says you can bill. We don't even see that much for the most part because reimbursement is not what it used to be.
Yeah.
Medi-Cal's low, Medicare's low, and
Yeah.
you know, that's just the type of area we live in with that type of insurance.
You're gonna make it up in volume.
You know, you would hope so, and you do sometimes, and
Yeah.
then there's days where you don't. You know, it's a hit and miss.
So some is by appointment, but a lot of it
Yeah.
is just waiting for the phone to ring.
Correct. Yep.
Wow.
You just have to
How
sit
do you
and wait.
staff for that?
You base it on utilization per day, so you kind of know what the ins and outs are of what certain days require, weather, things like that. We also kind of gauge it off of what other companies are doing, so we kind of know what we need to do staffing wise. So it's a cat and mouse game.
Yeah.
It really is. You just have to be as prepared as possible.
Pretty interesting business.
It is. It's a lot of fun.
You gotta love it. You gotta have a passion for what you do.
I do. This is 15 years into EMS, and every day is a new day. So you have to appreciate it.
Got just a minute left. What didn't I ask you? What did you coming over here? You said Chris is gonna ask me this question.
Nothing really, because I figured we would touch on what happened last night in Thousand Oaks, and just the biggest thing is, like I said, from us at Antelope Ambulance, we want to send our thoughts and prayers to all those that were affected, and we hope it never happens here, but we're going to be as prepared as we possibly can as our other agencies to respond to emergencies like that.
If you're driving down the road and Matt pulls up behind you and he's got the lights on and the siren going, the rule is pull over.
Yep.
And stop as soon as possible, as soon as safely possible.
Yeah, please pull to the right and just let us pass you. We're going to go right by, and
Yeah.
and we're not going to bother you. We're just going to move on to the emergency that we're going to.
Because the time you want to be in the back of that ambulance, or you're in the back, you want to get where you're going ASAP.
Exactly. I agree.
Hey, Matt Ware, Antelope Ambulance, thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.